What's up guys, today I will be installing a hood latch kit on my carbon fiber hood. Even VIS Racing, the manufacturer of the hood, states that you should install one of these kits because it's not as secure as the original one. Like mine, look, it moves a lot. So that could be very dangerous at high speeds because the wind is hitting your car and it's going under the hood and it's lifting it up. And depending how fast you're going, it could actually apply so much pressure that it will rip out the mechanism and then your hood could smash into your windshield. It's happened to a lot of people, so I recommend you install one of these kits if you have a carbon fiber hood. I got this off of Amazon for $63. It's Aerocatch brand. It's supposed to be a quality brand compared to the $20 kits that you can get off of eBay. I think it's worth the money because for $63 you could protect a $1,000 investment. I'm thinking I'm gonna put the pins here and here because below it there's nothing that can block the pin. And there's also a lot of room underneath it, so it's less likely that I'll damage something while drilling and installing the pins. So I have lined it up with the edge of the hex bolt and the tip forward, edge to this ridge right here, and the tip forward. Now I'm just gonna mark it with a Sharpie. Now when I'm drilling and I need to be extremely precise, I like to get a nail, in this case a screw because I couldn't find the nail, and then I just place it in the exact spot where I want to drill, and then I hammer it in. And that creates a little indentation where my drill bit is gonna go. And on the other side as well. Then I get a really small drill bit to drill at that puncture. And that way it's exactly where I wanted to drill the hole. Now the next side. Then you work your way up to a bigger drill bit. And now finally we can drill the actual size we want. And there you go, perfectly symmetrical in the exact spot you wanted to drill. The next part of this install will go much easier if you remove your front bumper. Okay, now that we have access through here, we can go ahead and bolt on the pins with a washer and a hex nut on the bottom and a washer and a hex nut on top as well. Next up, I'm gonna lower the pins. The reason why I lowered the pins is because I want to mark the hood as closely as possible as to where it's actually gonna be sitting when closed. Because let's say the pin is here, very high up, and I mark there and I drill there. It's not gonna be in the same spot as when I close the hood. So by having the pins so low, I can mark it as close as possible as to where it's actually gonna be sitting. Next up, you wanna get some grease. This is actually hand cleaner. I'm just gonna put it on top of the pin. Just a little dab. And then I'm gonna close the hood and that's gonna tell me where I need to drill. At this point, it's a good idea to cover up your engine bay because a lot of debris is gonna fall on it. Guys, before you start any drilling, make sure you have a protective mask because carbon fiber dust is a carcinogen, so you don't wanna breathe that. We can now go ahead and drill where our grease was marked. Okay guys, so now we need to mark the top side of the hood, and to do that, we need the pins to go through this side. So we have to enlarge the openings. I'm gonna use a step drill bit, and I'm gonna go up to 7/8. Now we need to actually take out the pins a bit higher. We do the same thing we did with the last one. Just a little bit of grease on top of that pin, top of this one. And once we close it up and they touch, it should tell us exactly where we need to drill. Now I can go ahead and step drill. So I went up to 7/8 as well on this side. And there we go. Now that I have measured more or less how long I need my pin, I have marked it to where I can cut it because it's too long and that's gonna make it difficult when bolting it down. If you cut it with the hex nut on, then you can recreate the thread once you remove it. And this one's good. Okay guys, so because the pin is gonna be at the very edge, I cannot install the latch like this because it's gonna hit the frame underneath. Also, there's a big curve here in this area and the latch is flat. Therefore, I'm gonna have to install it sideways. It will fit underneath and it will create a more flush finish. Position your latch in the angle you wanted while keeping it aligned with the pin underneath. Then trace it out with a Sharpie. Okay guys, so now that you have traced the outline on the bottom of this piece, you can use this one to trace it out perfectly. Just trace here on the inside. You can now begin cutting on the outside of the line you just marked. If the latch does not fit, smooth out the edges and it should fall right into place. So because of the angle, it's hitting here and it doesn't close properly, so I'm gonna have to grind a little bit to this side. We can now adjust the height of the pin to where it needs to be. Once we have done that, we can tighten it down. On this anchor point, the pin is sitting perfectly vertical and this does not align with the latch because of the big curve on the hood. So slight persuasion of the pin is required. And it has a bit of play, so move it to where you want the final position to be. All right, that's good. Now hold it down and mark the holes where you're gonna drill. For this next part, what I see a lot of people doing is that they cut out a big piece in order for them to be able to hold the plate at the bottom while they bolt it down by holding the hex nuts here. But I think that looks very unprofessional because it's just a hole cut out with a Dremel tool that's not symmetrical to each other, unlike the holes we have already drilled out here that are perfectly symmetrical. For this next part, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some super glue and then we are gonna glue these on so they won't fall off. Put a little bit and then put the hex nut. Now we don't have to worry about them falling out. We then need to enlarge the bolt holes with a 732 drill bit. This will help to easily bolt up the latch to the plate. Okay, now we can go ahead and insert the plate. Align it with the holes and screw on the bolts about halfway. Now what we're gonna do is put some super glue all around the plate. Once the super glue is applied, immediately bolt it on tightly. Once that is tightened down, we can leave it for a few minutes to make sure it's dry. It's been a few minutes, so now we can go ahead and remove the bolts. The super glue holds on the plate, so now we can bolt on the latch. So what we're gonna do is trace the outline of the hood latch. And now we're gonna cut on the inside of the line. There we go. Perfect. Next up, we place it on the latch and use some tape to hold it in place. Follow the hood's curve and then tape it down. This side as well. Then we're gonna hold it right at the edge while we mark the underside. Now I can take this off. Then we are gonna cut along this line that we just did. And that will give me a perfect outline of where the hood latch is and where the edge of the hood is. That way we can flip it over to this side and draw where this latch is going to be at. Okay, right around there. We then use this as a template to mark the inside line because that is where we need to cut. Only because I'm extra OCD, I'm gonna measure it. Locked in place, 96.86, and yep, exactly the same. I used the Dremel tool to cut out the needed piece. If the latch does not fit once you cut, sand down a little on the edge and it should fall right into place. Perfect. We can now go ahead and mark the holes for the bolts. Once again, I first mark the holes with a thin drill bit and then I re-drill them with a 732 drill bit. Same method as before. We're going to put some super glue and then insert these. Damn it. Install the plates by screwing on the bolts only halfway. Okay, now we can go ahead and put super glue all around the plate. We tighten it down as fast as possible. After waiting a few minutes, we can remove the bolts. So now on this one, we're gonna have to shave a part of it just like we did on the previous one. It's rubbing, so we're gonna have to cut a little piece here. All of this shaded area is gonna have to come off. You can now install your latch. Before bolting your latch all the way down, you can use your cardboard template to make sure the latch is sitting perfectly. All that's left to do is to adjust the pin in order for the latch to close. This may take adjusting of the pin's height and angle. So, just get your Jeremy Clarkson tool and okay guys, so there's a few strands here that make it look ugly, so I'm gonna sand those off. And that pretty much concludes the install in this video, guys.